real interesting idea. Come in and buy bonds. We'll pay you 5 or 6% for your money. We'll use that money for infrastructure, and that would get the money back into the country. But the problem with that is that over the last 8 years, we do not have a tax policy. We don't have a fiscal policy. So we need that in the government to get businesses. Businesses are set up, whether you be small or large, to make a profit. Plain and simple. We're a capitalistic country. So unless we address the capitalistic needs of businesses to bring that money back, it's not coming back. So it has to start with the Congress, and it has to start, and this is something you can work on, Tom, when you get there, is a tax policy and a fiscal policy so businesses know the rules they can operate under.
This is a very important point, and Gary can go. We haven't reformed the tax code in America since 1986. Remember Bill Bradley worked on it with, what did he work on it? Who was the Republican he worked on it? Was it Kasich?
It wasn't Kemp Roth. It wasn't Jack Kemp.
Jack Kemp. Anyway, we haven't had a major reform of the tax code in America since 1986, okay? The world is completely different today than it was in 1986 as far as globalization goes. And I mean, just listen to, international, what did you say, an international trade company, and you know what that is. And I'm a CPA. So this is complex stuff, and what's unfortunately happening in our country is we're having this deterioration where nobody can talk about anything because everybody's yelling at each other. And so Gary commented on this in the beginning, that here we are in the middle of a political campaign. These things normally devolve into everybody yelling and screaming at each other. And there's a guy here earlier who was a tracker who wanted to set me up for so you use it in a commercial. The bottom line is I'm excited. This is not the best it could possibly be the way we did it tonight, but I'm excited about this because if I'm fortunate enough to become a congressperson, you guys are going to get fired, and I'm going to get the guy from Harvard and the guy from some other, and we're going to get the best people. We're going to talk about stuff with people and try and get people to actually talk about and understand that solving these problems is not as simple as it's been portrayed of everybody just yelling at each other. I mean, think about it. For 30 years, we've been fighting about immigration, El Salvador, Ronald Reagan, gun violence, Reagan and Brady getting shot, the Brady bill, Carolyn McCarthy's husband getting assassinated on the Long Island Railroad. Climate change, Al Gore was talking about it in '88, and I won an award as the model for cleaning up polluted sites in '96. He was talking about climate change back then. Healthcare reform. I mean, come on already. All we're doing is yelling at each other. We're not doing anything. I'm sorry, Gary.
I'll just get even by saying Doug Shaw and President Clinton also went to Harvard, and I beat him for Congress in 1983. What's your name? Matt, great question. I think everybody understands we're not talking about money that people have squirreled away in secret bank accounts in the Canary Islands or anywhere else in the world. That we're talking about a General Motors that merges with a subsidiary of a kid with a paper route in Ireland, and they decide to move their corporate offices to this kid's house in Ireland and pay or don't pay taxes according to that tax scheme instead of ours. It's a corporate inversion. It's an inversion because the little piece is really dictating the shots as to who's you paying tax.
The big one was just who? Pfizer and...
Yeah, Pfizer didn't do it because
Big legal disputes going on now with how much taxes people owe because the Irish decided that they want to get a piece of the action too.
Right.
This is a huge issue, and it has to be addressed. What rate do we have to bribe? I'm playing about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can't not vote for me because I'm not.
The further left, the better.
Easy for you to say.
He goes left, he goes right, and I'm the reasonable one.
You can get the votes. Now we're on it. The fight that goes on in Congress, people on the right, usually in one particular party, want to repatriate that money for almost free so the corporations can bring the money here, bring it back, and enjoy having earned all that money here, paying tax at that rate, and then bringing it back here and not pay tax on it when it's finally gets here. And other people say they should pay the regular rate of taxes that people use, you know, to create that kind of income. So that's the battle, and that's the fight. One solution to it that I thought I had, and again ran into the wall of no cooperation between the sides, back when the housing bubble burst. And I came up with a plan with the help of an economist that you should think about this. That if we let them bring that money back, and we'll have a different opportunity when something else gangs the league, if I can talk English, was any corporation or person who brings money back and repatriates it to the United States and invests it in rental housing. In other words, you buy up rental housing as an investment and make that housing available at a reasonable rate. You make money on the housing, you pay less money to bring your money back, and you're solving the other problem with that problem. We don't have a housing bubble right now, but you're creative enough to think of these things. So I'll call you and let you know what to think of.
That's good. I like that.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
You missed me already, right?
Let's think about all the things that we think about that he's thought about 50 times already, after having been living this as an elected official.
But what you have to figure out that I couldn't is how you bring everybody together, because they didn't come there to work out these problems. You're going to work out a problem, and you're going to sit there at the table with a gal or a guy whose purpose is to pull out the rug from under you. And our side does it too. I once co-sponsored a bill that a Republican had, because I thought it was a great bill, and someone came over to me and said, you should get off that bill. I said, I think it's a great bill. You know, maybe it needs a little tweaking, but that's nothing. He's on the hit list. He's beatable. We don't want to give him anything. But, you know, I didn't come just to fight the war, and you're not going to fight the war, but you got to figure out a way to get these guys together and do good with that.
All right, it's now 8:49, so we have 11 minutes, and we're cutting it off. So Charlotte, you wanted to say something, and you wanted to say something also, right? What's your first name? I forget it.
Lois.
Lois, I'm sorry.
All
Charlotte, go
right.
ahead.
I'm thinking about those corporations. Why would they bring the money back? I mean, it really suits them to have.
Well, they'd like to have, they're usually American corporations with American employees and American shareholders here in this country that they'd like to bring the money back. They just don't want to pay the taxes. And the question is it that they're being unfair, or is it that we have to recognize that in a global economy, we've got to figure out how to entice people to bring their money back into this country?
Listen, they play by the rules. The corporations that have offshored their money play by the rules in the Internal Revenue Code. And business and capitalists play by the rules. And those who don't go to jail. So the reality is that...
Not all of them.
Well, not all of them. The big banks didn't go to jail. I don't know. Listen, I take that back. I don't know what happened.
You better take that back.
I take that back. They should go to jail.
All right,
but I don't-
Charlie, and you, Ron, want to respond to what we were just saying. So let them respond, and then Lois go, okay?
But just let me finish my thought for a second. So the key thing here is to bring that money back. There has to be a financial interest to the people who have that money offshore to bring it back. Plain and simple.
Ron and then Charlie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the $2 trillion that you referenced earlier is the sum of the annual total of all illicit products, goods, and fund transfers that occur on the globe. $2 trillion in business that is not legitimate. It's everything from the handbag that's not Chanel to the pirated films, to narcotics, to flora, fauna, whatever. 2 trillion is the number, and that's an old number. It's not a current number, it's a higher number. Corporate responsibility should go much further than stopping those products and services that hurt their legitimate business. They're engaged in that to the tune of billions of dollars. But the gentleman who stood up and stayed standing is really saying that while we're fighting each other, interstate warfare, inter-party warfare, we've got other entities that are stealing the bacon, in hate to say that in a synagogue, Gary. That's the term most people relate to. And and it ain't chopped liver. And so, World Bank has a program called STAR, Stolen Asset Recovery. The model is beautiful, World Bank. They took that model from the United States, asset forfeiture. Over 250 years we've been doing that. People don't like it. Criminals don't like to have their assets seized. But when we see that they're engaged in activities that harm millions of people, the federal government can move right in and take the assets, freeze the money, and investigate properly and see to it that the crime stops and the money goes back into the U.S. Treasury. So what I'm saying is that we don't need to fight. We don't need to fight. We can win. But there's nothing a politician loves more, no matter what stripe they are, nothing more than a winning program. Once you identify it and implement it, you collect all manner of people from across the spectrum. Why? Because it's good for incumbency. It gets them reelected. Look what they did. And then you're not just talking about
Unfortunately, they're all
CD3.
getting-
You're not just talking about CD3, which to me is a microcosm of the United States. It's almost urban, sophisticated, and all the way down to like podunk we have in CD3. Congressional district.
Let Charlie go.
Anyway,
Lois,
I'm
and then
sorry to
Shirley.
run my mouth, but
It's okay.
I usually do.
No, thank you. It's good stuff. And,
Well, take it and run with
we
it.
can learn more from you on that.
What I was gonna say is that most states, if not all states, all 50 states in the United States, have an application formula. And Verizon, for example, which perhaps is a New York corporation, when it pays a fraction of its income to New York State, because it employs people in California and has earnings in California, it pays it out. California income tax as well, based on a formula. So I'm not sure why the United States doesn't participate in a universal formula so that companies like Apple are willing to bring back the money that's earned in the United States and not simply hide it in Ireland until Europe decides to tax them billions of dollars. I mean, what you pointed out earlier was that the revenue code needs to be reformed so that U.S. businesses pay their fair share in their earnings and their employment and their allocations to the U.S. economy.
Okay. All right, Lois, you go, and then Shirley's gonna close us up, and then I have some party comments. Go ahead, Lois.
First of all, I want to thank you for being here. This is what you do is very much appreciated. And what you said, Tom, about the fighting that goes on, and we've seen it particularly within the last 8 years, and it has to do with not just differences of opinion, but differences in how we feel about people. The hate and the greed and the corruption that's gone on. I mean, if we can elect people where we can agree to disagree, to have ideas thrown out. I mean, there have been absolutely wonderful ideas thrown out about jobs and housing and all of that. We need to elect people who will support that.
Thank you, Lois.
That's-
Jobs is one of your themes for this evening. And it seems to me that there is something that is going on that must be addressed, if not tonight. And that is jobs and the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the TPP. I mean, I think people who are in labor unions and people who are working do see the enormous threat in jobs going overseas, to Asia primarily.
Yeah,
And I think it is something that's going to have to be talked about.
yeah.
I know our economist
support TPP the
And
way
then
it
we
currently.
have to talk about it in the real world.
We can't support TPP in the current format that it's in, because this whole race to the bottom that I was talking about, you can't make it so that in America, we say because of our environmental protection, we're gonna close down all the foundries in America because the effluent is polluting our waterways. So we close down all the foundries. But then we still need the metals that were made at the foundries before, so we buy them in another country, and they're just polluting all the rivers over there. So we have to figure out how to balance this desire to maintain our standards and not allow other people to have these awful standards in their country, and then we're just doing the business there. So let me just close with this general point, okay? And this is an experiment. I mean, Gary was very, very concerned about this, understandably so. Why is it that nothing's changing in this country? Nothing is changing because we're all being fed billions of dollars in think tanks and advertising to convince us that we're all no good, that everybody's no good. The Democrats are no good, the Republicans are no good, politicians all stink, corporations are all awful, the lawyers are rotten, the doctors are terrible, everybody stinks. Why is that? Because there are people that benefit from the status quo. The reason things don't change often is because there are people that are benefiting, often in very big economic ways, from the status quo. They don't want it to change. So as long as everybody's against everybody, and as long as we can't get anything done, and we can't move any agenda forward, and everybody's a bum, then it stays the way it is. So in concrete terms, gun violence, the gun manufacturers make a lot of money. When the people got killed in Orlando with assault weapons, the sales of assault weapons went through the roof. Okay? Climate change, the oil and gas industry doesn't want us to believe it's climate change, and they don't want us to move to a green economy. We're all no good. We spend a lot of money to keep it the way it is. Health care, we did Obamacare. Richard Nixon had the most liberal health care proposals in America's history. Okay, we make Obama look like a right-wing conservative with what they did. So there's problems with Obama. Let's fix them. Why not? Because the insurance companies and the prescription drug companies don't want it to change. Immigration issues. There are farms, factory farms in America where people are working off the books and they're not paying them Social Security and they're not, following the basic rules. So we have to recognize that in order to change things, that you need answers, and that's a big part of it, is the answers. We also need to get everybody in on the story. Everybody's going to be talking about these things, not just the talking heads. But you need some answers. The second thing you need is the guts. The guts to actually fight against the powerful interests, because they're going to try and smack you down and stop you and make you look like a fool. And the third thing you need is the ability to actually win the fight. To actually get something, then you have to be able to win. And so the purpose of these meetings is to help come up with better answers. There's a lot of great answers out there. We've got to get more people with their ideas at things like this. This is just the beginning of it. But the answers, that's the easier part. I'll have the guts to do this, as I've done throughout my career, especially if I have people like yourselves engaged in the process. And when they make me look like a fool in the TV commercials, which they're going to do, and during this campaign, I'm sure they're going to attack me. There's been $1 million starting next week going after me. National Republican Campaign Committee. But we'll win the fight if we can build a network of people that goes beyond this group here. So if you like what happened here tonight, it's important for you to talk to your friends, to talk to your neighbors, talk to your coworkers, to spread the word, to get people interested, to get them involved, and make sure that we can go out and win this election. If you don't like what you heard tonight, you say, this Suozzi's full of it. I thought that Ackerman was much better. I thought that Cantor was so much smarter. I don't like that guy, Suozzi. And I ask you to please just keep it to yourself. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, anybody who wants to help us, this is a campaign thing also, okay? These are the postcards. Do me a favor, postcards. Nice picture, Tom Suozzi in the front, little postcard on the back. And you address it to people you know, especially if you think that you can persuade them, if they're not voting for us now, but they're your friends, and say, "Dear so-and-so," and then it has the pre-written postcard. And at the bottom you say, "Do me a favor," or "I know this guy," or "It's important you vote." please make sure you vote for Tom Suozzi. This is the most effective way, is your personal recommendation to your friends and neighbors and coworkers to ask them to please vote for me. So if you'll do 25 of these or 50, what are the packets, 25 or 50? 25 of these or 50 of these, you know, we want to do 20,000 of these postcards. Is it 20,000? I think it's 30,000 postcards. So please do postcards to your friends. Do me a favor. Thank you very much.
Yes, talk to you, gentlemen. That's it. And we got your information or phone number when you're done. Give us a call. We'll get it. Yeah.